Alright, here's the progress so far. This stuff goes pretty fast, so I didn't even, it's probably not worth filming, but I put in the throttle cable is back on. Actually, it's not back on, but the bracket is. But you just pop it in, and it should snap right back to its home. Let's see here. Come on. There you go. Nice. Throttle body's bolted back on. The crank shaft position sensor is back in, and the cam shaft position sensor is also plugged in. Now, what I want to do here is assemble the bare minimum so the engine can start up, fill it with oil, start it up, and make sure we have no bad sounds. I'll put the radiator on, but I won't fill it with coolant just yet. Also a new thermostat. So what we want to do is just double check that the engine runs fine, builds oil pressure, the tensioner works as it should, and then we'll proceed to put everything else on, fan, belts, covers, air cleaner, etc. So that's the plan. So for that we need to reinstall our radiator, then our air pipe up here to finish up the manifold, and then start her up. It'll run just on the map sensor. We don't need to plug in the MAF. We don't care about the check engine light right now. So I'll get you a shot of when the radiator is hooked up and we're ready to fire it up. So the radiator went in easier than it came out. We are installing a new thermostat with a jiggle pin. That's OEM style. Now this, look at this. I had to replace the thermostat a couple years ago because this gasket here got ripped, and I got a engine temperature, insufficient temperature code. So I replaced it with this guy, decent thermostat, right? But just in the weight alone, this guy weighs quite a bit more. And look at how much more coolant it can pass. It's a much bigger orifice there. And then look at the springs. Huge difference. This little dinky, if you're going to change a thermostat, put a nice OEM one in there. This is like 25 bucks. This is what, 10 bucks. Go with this. Your engine's a lot more expensive. And before popping it in, I'm going to put just a little bit of this gray RTV on the seal, because before I've had problems where even if you just use the rubber seal on here that it comes with, it'll still leak a little bit. So just gonna, better safe than sorry again. Make sure it fits first. Yep, that should be good. That little rubber thingy is locator is a little in the way, but I think it'll work. So just spread it on there, just a real thin layer all the way around. Also on this side. I want this baby to start up and not leak for a long time. At least that's the plan. Overall, this job, well, if you do it by the book, not a good experience. If you do it with a couple shortcuts, it's fine. You could probably knock it out in half a day to a day if you've done it before. So let's pop this guy in here. It's nice and flush. Just evenly press it down. Alright, and then we'll probably put a little sealant on that upper gasket and then fire it up. Well, this little gasket here kind of looks like a Subaru head gasket, doesn't it? I'll show you what I mean. See that guy right there? See how the coolant eats that black stuff off the metal? I think that's the same stuff they use on here. But this isn't the head gasket, so we can just put a little RTV on it and call it fixed. But, you know, same technology, it looks like. So we got that gasket glued in there. Torque to mechanics feel. It's good. These are good. Alright. Before we forget, see the red tape? Let's put some fresh oil in here. So it takes 6 quarts, 5W30. Always use synthetic. I already have the new oil filter installed. In situations like this, where you've been working all day and just can't wait to fire it up, you'd hate for something like oil starvation to ruin your day completely. So let's fill her up. So that was only 5. Add a little bit more. And then we'll bolt this crossover pipe on, fire it up. So when installing your air pipe here, first put it on, don't tighten the clamp down yet, because you'll need to move this to position the crossover pipe. Remember your gaskets? You got both of those installed. Now the pipe, make sure the mating surfaces are clean. And it kind of just should drop right in. And the plastic will be under the metal right there. So let's bolt that down. 12mm nuts. Kind of like putting a puzzle together, The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes together. And hopefully you're not missing any pieces. So we got that in there. Our wiring harnesses look good. And again, for all this stuff, just use hand tools. You don't want to drive something real quick and then tighten it too hard or something. So just snug it down. Again, nothing too hard. That other one needs, actually move this oil cap again just to get in here. Okay. Okay, great. Cap back on. Now we want to position our air pipe. And don't forget your hose for the fuel pressure regulator. There's a little vacuum hose there. 2 little 10mm head bolts. Go right in. Set those down. Perfect. So at this point, I think we're ready to give it the initial startup. Unless you can think of something else that we're missing. So we don't have any belts on yet, no coolant. We can take this off, put it on our radiator cap. Just a little reminder. Alright, I'm going to turn the camera off, think of what I'm missing. If I'm not missing anything, we're going to give it a whirl. Alright, here goes nothing. So I'm sure it'll be loud on initial startup because that tensioner is empty right now. But it should quiet down relatively fast. And I'll keep an eye on the oil pressure. Nice and quiet so far. So now I'm going to let it relax just a little bit and start it back up and make sure we don't have any startup noise. Try it again. Looks good. Alright, now we just have to button her back up. Now the next step here, since we have all this open room right now without the fan and the shroud in the way, put on the belts. First we have our water pump alternator belt. Just loosely throw it on there with the pulley and the fan will tighten this down and then you can tension it. The power steering and AC belt, the way you tension that, I guess I got carried away, I should have shown this, but you put a 10mm hex wrench in the middle of the pulley. There's a hole in there, for that size. So you work it in, and then you have both bolts loose, and then you tension it with the wrench here until you don't want it. This belt has to be pretty tight for the power steering nut to squeal, but tension it and then tighten first the bolt in the elongated hole and then the one, the pivot bolt. And then you take your wrench out and you should be good to go. That belt's tight, it's on there. So next step here, oh yeah, I still have to fill the the fan clutch with the silicone oil, and then we're getting real close. Putting the final pieces back together here. Just a quick tip on tightening the fan clutch bolt. So we have the belt on, but it's still loose. Okay. So what I do is, put the 4 nuts on there. Right there. Okay. And now, when I tighten them with a wrench from the right side, I hold the belt down and then just tighten it until the pulley starts to slip through. And then do all of them in a row. Like that, so that one's tight. Okay, last one here. Tighten down with your finger first, and then wrench on there and snug her down. Alright, perfect. My fan's on. I feel some resistance in there, so that means the silicone fluid is doing its thing. So, not much left to do here. Bolt the shroud back on, and then power steering reservoir, air box, a couple plastic pieces, we'll be in good shape. Almost forgot to tension the alternator belt here. So the way I do it, stick a big pry bar in there. So there's no tensioning bolt, you just have to kind of pry it against the block, set the tension, and then tighten the pinch bolt. So I don't know if you'll be able to see much, but got the 12mm socket on there, and then just snug it down. So, you know, just go by feel. Belt tension is one of those things, again, that you just develop a feel for it. If they're loose, they'll squeal. If they're too tight, they'll wear faster and wear out the bearings on the accessories. So I guess get them to where they don't squeal, and they'll last a good long time. So all we have to do now is refill the coolant. I'll show you how to bleed the system. Then we'll take it for a spin. And for now, I'm going to leave the protector off of the bottom. So once we come back, we'll check for leaks. Hopefully we won't have any. Alright, we're ready to fill her up with coolant. So it had long life coolant in there to begin with, so I'm going to reuse part of that and then top it off with some fresh universal stuff. And this stuff looks, I measured the freezing point, it's still good. And it had a recent coolant flush, oh, maybe a couple years ago, so don't want to waste resources. This is a Lyle spill-free funnel, works great. If you don't have one, you know, no big deal. It just makes bleeding the system a lot easier. So once it's done bubbling, I'll fire it up and let it warm up. Get the bubbles purged out. We should be good to go. So let's fire it up, let it warm up to operating temp, check the coolant level. You actually heard the fan engaged there. Sounds good. I'll kick it back on when we're ready to roll. So inside the truck we see our oil pressure is at 70, slowly dropping. That's good. Our water temperature is at 42 and rising. Make sure we got heat at the vents. Water pump's doing its thing. Yep, it's getting warm. So we'll let this warm up. It should, the thermostat should open at about 85 to 90 degrees Celsius. Alright, final shot here. Took it for a 10-mile test drive, got it nice and hot. No rattle. So confirmed fix, no leaks. Start up one last time. Noticing a little something. Well, it's better than it was before. So I'll keep you posted how it performs, but I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully someone will find it helpful. I know there aren't that many of these left on the road, but it's always good to have a video of the procedure instead of pictures on the forum, which are also really helpful. So I think that's it. Maybe some bonus footage. I'll tear apart the old tensioner. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Alright, final post-surgery analysis here. Here's the old tensioner. So here are the parts that it consists of. Here's the tensioner body with the oil port in the back. Here's the little ratchet pawl with the spring and the pivot pin. So all you have to do to take this thing apart is push the pin out of the body and the whole thing explodes. Now here is the interesting meat and potatoes. So there's the actual plunger, a big heavy spring, then a little cap, and on the back of that cap is a really fine spring and a ball. So this is a one-way oil valve, supposedly. And if we look inside, you can see that hole in there. That's where the ball sits. So theory of operation, we have oil pressure, from the oil pump coming into this little port. There's also another little hole right there. You see it? Yep, right there on the end. And that's where the excess oil squirts out. But then the oil pressure overcomes the spring tension of that ball. Okay. Then this thing fills up with oil, pushes on the plunger, fills the inside of the plunger with oil, tensions your chain. So what could be the failure here? I mean, everything looks to be in decent shape. The ball is clean. And the problem that I was having, the rattling, was occurring only when the oil got really thin and hot. So the only thing I can come up with is the plunger itself, just from use, extending and retracting. The clearance between the plunger and the body just got a little too big, and the oil, instead of pushing the plunger out, was just seeping by right there between the body and the plunger. I guess it doesn't take much to lose pressure, especially at idle when the oil pressure is low to begin with. It's around 10 psi, up to 30. We're experiencing the failure. So I guess the oil is just bypassing. There's a little notch cut out here, so the oil is designed to come out eventually, but I'm guessing the bore is just worn out, or the plunger itself. Now, I didn't see any scuff marks or anything obvious, but that's all I can say about that. Alright, hope you enjoyed the series. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.